Happy Friday, traders. This is Fawad Razak's other market analysis for City Index. Today is the 28th of February. So the key question remains whether the equity markets in the US will bounce back today after selling off quite sharply in the previous session, which was driven by an 8% drop in Nvidia shares. So looking at the Nasdaq here, it is testing liquidity below the January low. So in a way, it has kind of met its near-term objective from a bearish point of view. The key question now is, can it bounce back and go back within that range that it was trading previously inside? So a lot will depend on how Nvidia shares will trade today. But from a macro point of view, tariffs will remain the key focus for the markets. And with the deadline of March 4 approaching, there's not much time for the sides to strike a deal, you would think. But for now, at least, from a purely tactical point of view, I wouldn't be surprised if the market were to stage a mini recovery from here. After all, the RSI indicator on the Nasdaq is at oversold levels of 30. So a little bit of a bounce from here should not come as a surprise in my view. And not just for the Nasdaq, but for the other US indices too. Let's have a look at the share price of Nvidia. So Nvidia sold off quite sharply, closing at 120 yesterday. This psychologically important level is going to be very important. And if we see shares go back above this area, that could potentially pave the way for a bounce of some sort heading into the close. And so keep an eye on what price does here, because it will have major implications for the major indices, not least the Nasdaq 100. The key area in terms of resistance will be around the 200-day moving average of around 126 or thereabouts, with 130 being the next key psychologically important level. Will it bounce all the way to that area? It remains to be seen, but the early indications are that it is coming off its earlier lows, so we may be seeing a sign of recovery heading deeper into the US session. Right, on to Bitcoin then, and as you can see, prices are coming off their earlier lows, finding support from the psychologically important $80 level, $80,000 level, I should say, and bouncing back to above the 200-day moving average, which comes in at around 81 to 82 area. So let's see how Bitcoin ends today's session. If we get a nice bullish-looking hammer candle here, that could potentially pave the way for a recovery towards 90,000. And then above that, you don't have anything significant until 95,000. And then the 100K level will come into focus again. But first things first, let's see if it will form a low here. And if it does, whether that will in turn encourage the buyers to step back in. Meanwhile, if the selling pressure continues, then the next area of support to watch will be between this shaded region. Here we have the March 2024 high converging with the November 2021 all-time high. So that was a major high previously. We struggled there last year. We finally broke above it towards the end of the year when Donald Trump won the election. So this area is significant. And given how much funds have flown into Bitcoin ETFs and whatnot, I would not be surprised if the next major low were to form around this area, should prices dip down to that zone. So that's the long-term support area, if you like, between 69,000 to 73,800 or thereabouts. But for now, keep an eye on 80. I think that's an important level, a psychologically important level. We have seen previous bounces around a similar level, like 90,000, as you can see by the wicks of these candles. So similar to that, we could potentially see a bounce here, and potentially in the weeks ahead, we could see another dip. But then if we do dip down to this area, I would expect a strong bounce of some sort. Meanwhile, the RSI is at oversold levels again of below 30. So every time it's got to these levels, we've seen some sort of a bounce, but it doesn't always mean that we'll get a recovery, because the RSI is basically a secondary indicator derived from underlying price action. So you just have to take it with a pinch of salt. In any event, those are the key levels to watch on Bitcoin. But for more market insights and analysis, make sure to check out the news and analysis section at cityindex.com. Have a lovely weekend. Take care.